All right, welcome everyone to the London session on TopstepTV. My name is Deeyana Angelo, aka Market Stalker D, and I've been trading for 18 years. 14 years out of that trading futures. Is it 14? I think it's 14. Anyways, it's a very long time. I tend to specialize in slightly more unusual products such as copper, such as RBOB. And speaking of RBOB, we are going to have a guest today. He's going to be joining us in a few minutes. If you saw my Twitter post, you know who we're talking about. But yeah, so while the guest is setting up, let's go over some levels for copper today. Let's also go over and see what the FOMC did. I think that was the news of the day, right? So copper had a pretty interesting reaction. It just kind of shot up and up. I had a level yesterday of the exhaustion point at 510, where we also had some options levels. However, they kind of smashed through it. So obviously, copper is something that is very affected by inflation. It's a very sensitive product to any sort of inflation issues. And we've kind of seen that continue somewhat overnight, although the reaction wasn't that violent. But still, it had a bit of an effect, right? We have some new levels today. I am looking at the new calls in a gamma wall at 513. I also have a GEX2 level at 515 that has proven difficult to break. We might be seeing some inventory adjustment in progress. And when it comes to the value areas, we have the London value all the way down at 505.30. For those of you looking to trade this much later during COMEX, the price action is, we're making some lower lows. And from COMEX value, we're actually just sitting on it. It's like 511.60. And that's exactly where we are right now. Now, there is a chance that we react to that and carry on higher. But as always, I need to see the initial balance extension before I do anything. So for now, we're just going to be chilling, observing, and seeing whether we can figure out what they're trying to do with this and gain a good understanding of a whole bunch of data that's coming in and market-generated information so that we can make a decent decision. Yesterday was a small day for me. Obviously, I only traded micros on this combine, and I did get myself out of that trade, even though it kind of worked out. But for some reason, I was just like, I'm just going to kill this. I kind of didn't. Because it was FOMC, I didn't really want to trade that much, so I only took the smallest chunk of the overall move. But the levels worked out perfectly, so that's FOMC for you. Let's have a look at what equities did. I had a VIP class later last night, and we did discuss what ES did. Now, FOMC, let's see. Okay, this was FOMC, and interestingly, I had an ADR exhaustion somewhere. I think it was 57... Let me just have a little quick look, because I was talking and I didn't really expect the levels to do much. Yeah, so it was at 57.57. What a nice number. And even with all the craziness, we still managed to reach 57.57. Yeah, obviously we overshot. It is very much expected for the FOMC, because it's such a, it's a big news event. It's a big news event. So whenever I have a level, I kind of take it with a pinch of salt more as a zone. And then if we reclaim it, it might come into play. But frankly, I personally don't like trading FOMC. I don't have a great track record with it. And it wasn't the levels. It was, because some people who are not live and they've never really traded proper live markets with any sort of size, they go to me, oh, Dee, but just use levels. Yeah, that's great. But in the live markets, there is this thing called the order matching. So if you don't actually have anyone to take your order, it's either not going to get filled or you're going to get slipped to wherever the market participants are. That's exactly what happened to me many, many moons ago. And it sort of created one of my psychological traumas where I'm just so scarred by the experience and it's kind of remained burnt into my head. Do not trade FOMC because it's bloody dangerous, right? You can have all the levels you want, but if nobody wants to take your order, it doesn't matter, right? You can have all the levels you want. So, I don't know how everybody else did. So let's see how the chat did. Did you actually, Ben says copper trade worked nicely yesterday. Yeah, exactly. It's a shame that I didn't actually hold it. Yeah, I should have just done what I normally do, just kick off a trade, walk away, come back to it after 4 hours. But no, I was like, oh, what? I was sitting here watching it, and then after a while I had to deal with some packing and stuff because we are moving house, and then I was like, oh, I can't watch it if it's FOMC. I don't know whether something might happen or whether they're going to go into some mad movement. So I closed it, and I was like, oh, what an idiot. But yeah, it happens, right? Yeah, so how did you guys do? Let's see in the chat. Worldwide Worker says didn't touch it. Excellent. Justino says did fabulous prior to FOMC. Then blew multiple accounts at other firms. You Paul. Ha! Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. When the FOMC rate decision happens, that's one thing, right? But then you've got to know that the real party is at the press conference when he starts yapping and answering questions. And, the market just starts moving up and down and up and down. It gets really crazy. So everybody thinks that it's the FOMC rate decision that causes the most trouble. It isn't. It causes the initial sort of knee-jerk reaction. And then it kind of settles, doesn't do much. Then he starts talking. Daddy Powell starts talking, and then we have more carnage. And that's when people get caught up. So now next time, press conference is where it's at. So don't be trading the press conference next time. Just, the markets will be here. And in fact, a lot of the times, the following day tends to bring really nice extended moves. I am interested to see what Nikkei did. Just going to pull that up because sometimes it can have these crazy moves. But usually that happens when there's some sort of, change in the rate decision, the surprise to what they were planning to do. Yeah, so it's done nothing. I mean, there was a little bit of movement around 2 a.m. my time. But very range bound. Look at this. So yeah, they went up, turned around, went down. I suppose this was a decent move. I wouldn't call it a juicy move. But yeah, there's some opportunities. Wonder whether Dakota did something with that. Some of the stuff that I do on Nikkei whenever we have a surprise rate decisions is to run these trades that last for 7-8 hours. So I basically kick them off during Asia, and if I'm able, I effectively want to hold it at least to the London Open. But sometimes I get really tired and I'm like, oh, I can't. And I don't sleep well whenever I'm running swing trades. I don't know, Dakota is decoder is very special that he can just sleep through positions. Every time I had positions on, even when I was a swing trader, I was always, one eye open to see what the markets are doing. And to be honest, I went into intraday because of that. I kind of found it less stressful. But yeah. Okay, let's have a look. What is the best asset to trade this time of day? James Hansen wants to know. So I prefer copper. I prefer DAX, but we don't have DAX yet. I've been asking for it for over a year now. Don't know when it's coming. Don't ask me when it's coming. Ask MP. You need to badger him to make it more urgent. But for now, it looks like they're just not really. They're working on it, but apparently they came across some issues. And I'm not a part of the development team there, so I don't know what the issues are. I've heard what they're struggling with, but in my eyes, that can be sorted out with like one move. But hey ho. Again, don't know what the issues are. For some reason, we still don't have Eurex. Unfortunately, I do know that there are other companies that do have it through TraderTainment. So I don't know whether maybe we can bring people Eurex via TraderTainment, because that seems to be the cheap option that would enable us to do it. But yeah, it would be nice to get it on Topstep. Like it's one of the things that really moves. Like for example, if I just quickly show you what DAX is doing. I mean, it's already super lively. We already have 92 ticks of movement. We are leaving the value area as I speak. Did some trades on it yesterday. Both of them worked out pretty nicely. The first one was the bounce from this put support area. And the second one was a mean reversion during New York back up to value. But again, that's another account. It's my own personal account. And yeah, it would be nice to do those on Topstep. But hey ho. It is what it is. We wait. We can wait. We're traders. Patience is the name of the game, right? Okay, so let's focus on copper, because copper is my second choice. Now with copper, platinum, any sort of alternative products that you might be looking at, you may find that the volatility sometimes falls drastically, and that causes everything to obviously slow down. I need follow through for my style of trading. If I don't have follow through, that becomes very painful very quickly. But I also need products that are smooth. So something that is wagging up and down and doing zoomies like NASDAQ, that's not very conducive to what I'm trying to do. So this is why I gravitate towards products that have extended moves, that are smoother in nature. But that does mean that sometimes at times of low volatility, you may not get those moves, and then you're just entering a trade and watching paint dry for about 3 hours. Now that's one of my mental triggers. So in order to prevent being in those trades, I take a look at something called the volatility indexes. It's kind of like VIX, but for my alternative products. Okay, let me just go back here. Just give me a chance. So we're gonna have our guest joining us very soon. Let me just get the screen in and do my production stuff on the other side. Dee, the producer, over here. Okay, so that should be in there. Let me just check it. Did that grab it? Try that again. Sometimes it takes a little while for these to load, and should be all right. Give it time. Let's have a look if that's gonna turn up. It's a bit odd. There we go. Okay, so I do have the screen. Okay, we've got the screen. Now we just need your camera. And then we're gonna do the introduction and have a bit of fun this morning. Whilst the guest is setting up, I'm going to talk about these volatility indexes. So CVOL is what CME calls them. CVOL, very nice name. It's basically like VIX, but for various other markets. So for WTI, which is crude oil, here they call it CLVL, but really on all other platforms it's called OVX, but it's basically the VIX of crude oil. And you can see that it's fallen down to 31. Now, crude oil typically tends to have higher VIX. All right, I can see the guest. There's some background noise that I can hear. I don't know why. Something's churning in the background. It's not a deal breaker, but I can hear you. They can't yet. Yes. Oh, that's better. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, okay. All right, let me just wrap up the volatility indexes, and then we're going to bring you in. So WTI, whenever it falls under 35, I tend to cut off all trading activities because it becomes very painful. We go down to ranges that are like barely $1 a day. That's like barely 100 ticks, and that usually means that you're going to get like 50 to 60 tick move, and then for the rest of the day, it's just going to be like 35 ticks torture. That is not conducive for my style of trading. So I want to see crude oil at 35 before I do anything. Now, some of these other products like copper, platinum, gold, they have different starting points. So for example, copper, I like to see it above 25. We are very nicely above that, 27.50. And platinum, the cutoff point for me is about 22. So they are different, but you can kind of go historically to see when these markets were more trend type, more conducive to day traders, and then you can decide what sort of strategies to run or whether to exclude them from your tradable products. So it's a very nice thing to have in your trading plan. All right, so now that we're done with that, and while we're waiting for copper to do its thing with the initial balance, which won't happen for another 7 minutes, let's bring the guest in. Now, let me just pull the links. Again, Dee, the producer. Okay, so we should be loading it any second. There he is. All right, Coach Robert, welcome.
Hello.
How are you doing this morning? Yes.
The audio is there too? Okay,
Yes,
great.
audio is there too. They should be able to hear you. Welcome to the London session. What's happening?
Oh, yeah, it's London session on my neck of the woods over here too.
So do you, I know you said you're a bit of a night owl. Do you normally stay up this late, or is this like really, really late? Because there's a cutoff point usually.
Yeah, well, it's really late because I'm generally up if I just talk Eastern time, just because of where I'm at just for a second. So my Eastern time, I'm generally in bed around 2 a.m. roughly. So
Yeah.
I had to wake up today at 3:30 a.m. to get
Yeah.
it here. So I actually went to bed a little bit earlier tonight. But generally, that's how it goes. But it's an interesting day because I had some after hours work to do, and now I'm seeing you on your show here with your guests. And then right after this, I'm actually starting my day a little earlier than normal since I'm covering for JD while he's out on Thursday and Friday. Then I have the production show, and then after the show, I have a meeting with my VIP team. So it's going to be like an 18-hour day today.
Oh,
versus
wow.
like
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. We
It's-
want to get this going though, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
And hello.
no, it's a pleasure to have you on. Usually it's just me, or sometimes I get Coach Ray in here, but generally it's just me talking to a wall, basically. So my dogs are like, well, why are you always talking to a box? What's happening? But yeah, we have some great questions usually from our London crowd. They're very inquisitive, and it's a very different vibe from the main broadcast. You will see that we don't get that many trolls, probably because I usually call them out and then Bruno deals with them. But so yeah, we're running a tight ship over here. So yeah,
Love it.
so basically let's have a look at let's have one of the questions I missed. So relative to NQ, does DAX move as much and as maniacally, however you say that word? It's not as crazy as NQ. Although when the volatility is up, it can be. Like we've had last 2 weeks where I had to use like 110 tick stop on DAX, and I normally use 35. So that kind of tells you the difference in craziness. And yes, I was able to capitalize on some of the movements. One time I kicked off a trade and I looked at it, and I was like, oh, 110 ticks, that's insane. Maybe I'll just, I don't know, I'll probably bail if I get to 70, like negative risk reward, but that's what you have. And I actually looked at it 30 minutes later, and it was up like 326, and I didn't set a target because I was like, let's see what happens. So I was like, what is going on? This is like insane. And it did remind me of NASDAQ, right? But it doesn't always do that, and it's not super crazy. It's not as whippy either, so when it decides on direction, it just goes. It's a very smooth product. Now, Coach Robert, you trade NQ quite a lot. In fact, that is your main product, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right. NQ is the main product. I look at YM sometimes. It moves similar to NQ, and NQ, if it's flying around, it'll just tear your face off. Sometimes by the time you take your finger off the mouse, you can be down 10 points, and 10 points in one contract is $200, and if you have 3 on the $600, you're almost $1,000 daily loss limit. You're done. So you just gotta be careful with it sometimes. And just for full transparency here, I do have a practice account up only because the only way I can trade my live account is when I'm actually on the daytime show of TopstepTV.
Yeah, I do know about that.
Yeah, I do have one. So if I refresh my screen. Now this is live. Here's my live account number, and just to prove it that it's there. But I just can't. Being a Topstep employee, I can't trade the live unless I'm on TopstepTV.
Yeah,
so
exactly. It's kind of like a company account. Yeah, it's a company account.
So
it's not your personal account. There's certain rules attached to it. That's something that people don't know. But, they all think, oh, everybody just clicks buttons. No. We don't. There are certain things that you have to be doing. All right. So, Coach Robert, I want to take this opportunity because, you're always mainly in the role of a host, right? You're always the one asking questions. But I want to flip that around. So I want to ask you some questions so that we can find out a little bit more about you. Now, I know that you have some very varied interests in your life. And I think that they will probably be very interesting to our audience. So let's start with your coding skills. So how did you get into coding? Because I know that you're our resident coder. So how did that come about? Was that your background? Is that where you came from? I know you had a tech company at one point, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. That's correct. And actually, I've been with Topstep for 3 years. It is the first job that I've had since 1997. So I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I'll be, what is this? I'll be 56 in 3 weeks. So everybody knows my time frame I'm talking about. So, but for 17 years, 14 years, I had my own IT business. And then I don't know where 17 came from because I changed careers, but IT was like a small break fix. I had 8 employees, 3 locations.
Oh, right.
And it was like small, but where it was IT support. Now you're talking. I started in 19. Let's see. I'm not married now. I'm married in 95, so 97 is when I started this IT company. To give you an idea, and that's the last job. I worked at Bose Corporation and to sound after they're making this Bose speakers and headsets and stuff like that. So it's like a break fix. It's small businesses between like 5 users and 50 users. So big enough to not need IT help and not big enough to have your own outsource. I did that, and 2009, I turned 40 that year. I got divorced that year. I sold my business that year, and I did a whole career change. Went back to school and became a sports therapist, and I did open a sports therapy practice for about 10 years, and then 2017, 18, Bitcoin went through the roof, and I got into trading because when I was at my sports practice and Bitcoin was going crazy, I had flashbacks to my IT days where I had several traders, several clients that were day traders, and I was always going there, bringing them the biggest screen, the fastest computer, the newest. They're always showing me pictures of the boat they bought, the vacation they came back from. Like, I got to do something about this. So in 2017, I phased out of my sports practice, which was high end. And we worked on elite athletes and NFL players. I had 12 people in the 2016 Olympics, and it's pretty incredible. several locations on that as well. I dumped everything, started trading in 2017, and it was horrible. Horrible. So yeah, then somewhere toward the end of 2017, a trader came out of the blue in a group and helped me out. Don't even know this gentleman's name. He said, "Listen, I don't want any money. I'm $1,000 a day trader, and I'll help you out, but I'm only gonna give you about a month or so, and then send you on your own." I don't know who he is to this day. I know his screen name. No idea, no money. Just showed me the ropes, and he showed me futures, and I was like, "Really?" And once I started trading futures, it was just sound is not perfect. I'll bring it closer.
Yeah, so if you can just lower the input of your mic a little bit, sometimes it's like crackling because I think the input is a little too high.
All right, there's the gain down a little bit. I have one with Yeti, so it's pretty
Yeah,
strong.
that's good. Yeah, that's fine. And
Okay.
I can control it from this end as well now. Because anytime you're pushing, like if you guys didn't know, Coach Robert is also a musician. He plays the guitar pretty well, actually. I was a bit surprised. So I think everybody in this line of work always has some very, very interesting backgrounds. I've never met like a dull person who went into trading. Everybody's like a bit out of the norm. You know, it's not your like everyday person. We all have interesting backgrounds, interesting hobbies. Now, I want to talk about the bodybuilding. So
Okay, before we finish your coding question.
Yeah, we'll get back to the coding. We are going to get back to the coding because I think people are going to be very interested to hear more about that. But just to kind of give people an idea of all of the different sides of Coach Robert. So bodybuilding, you did some competitions, didn't you?
I did. Prior to that, we can do this thing too, but I started studying karate, and at the end of the karate career was the year 2000, and at that time, my ex-wife, my wife at the time, said, "Hey, I want to do this competition." It was called Body for Life, BOD, like the number 4 life, through Bill Phillips, and it was a muscle media magazine thing. It was a before and after photo contest. The year 2000, it was called, a change in time, a time for change. It was still a whole markup thing. And she said, "Hey, will you do this with me, this 12-week competition?" Before and after photos. I was like, "Sure." But what I couldn't do is I couldn't be in the gym at like 5 or 6 in the morning, but then have to fight another black belt at 8 o'clock at night. So I left, I made my goals, and we'll go to karate in a second, but I made my goals in the karate side. So I switched over to the training side of bodybuilding, and we did this competition. And again, January to March, I think 25th or something was the 12th week. And we actually didn't do too bad with it. We went in as individuals. There was something like 300,000 people entered, only just over 100,000 finished it. And we made the top 1,000, which is the top 1%. Right after that, a gentleman in the gym who was actually helping us said, "You guys look pretty good. Why don't you consider bodybuilding?" And I had no idea. We're both pretty crazy when it came to that stuff. So we competed, and I got second place in my first one, and she got third place in her first one. And
awesome.
We did that for a couple of years. Yeah, thank you. And the diet portion, as you know, can be challenging. And that's what it is. You want to look good. It's a diet. It's not the nutrition.
Yeah, I mean, I think it ties.
Yeah,
it kind of ties into the discipline and mental strength. That I did the bodybuilding competitions. I went a bit nuts actually. In like a space of a year, I did like 10 of them. Don't know why I was doing that, but there's just something in me that forces me to go to the extremes. And that was one thing. I was really trying to just get a little bit healthier, a little bit fitter as I kind of approached my 40s, because that was when I was I really got into bodybuilding when I was about 37, so fairly late in life. But I've been an athlete my entire life. It's not something new. So for me, it was a way to really find out everything and anything about the diet, nutrition, exercise, and really get to know my body and what works for me. Now, whenever I speak to you, you're always coming up with various bits and pieces. You're like the other day, you're like, "Oh yeah, I also play the electric guitar." It's like, God, Robert, it's like you just never cease to amaze me how similar, like we have very, very similar interests, right? And I don't really meet people like that every day. And, it's one of the reasons why I really enjoy being on TopstepTV and why I enjoy hanging with you guys. You find people that are more like you, and it's everyone. It's Hogue, it's Dakota, it's, every single person has very interesting stories. Now, I want to get back to your experience in coding and trading. So you had your own IT company for years, and you got into trading, and you obviously tried to do it manually at first, or did you go down the route of coding immediately? How did that journey go? Oh, I think you're muted. You muted? You're not muted on my end. But yeah, I seem to have lost your input. Let me try it again. Hold on. Let me just... Again, live TV, guys. It's what happens. Let's try that again. There. See if that's going to fix it. You might have to reconnect. I don't know. This has never happened before. So I'm gonna hang up the camera and then you can reconnect again. Okay. Right, we're gonna get Coach Robert on back in a second. Here, I do have his screen up still. Okay, I can see you. Yeah, yep, I can see you again.
Hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. You're coming
Okay.
through. Okay, I don't know what that was all about. That's
It was
gremlins.
yeah, I don't know. I was on the second camera when I connected first with the charts and I had my Yeti microphone up, which is the good one. And then when I connected the other side, it just defaulted back to the
Oh,
screen
right.
camera here. So that we can check with the chat, I'm sure, because we get into some comments in there, and we just saw that. So it was pretty should be pretty good now with this microphone. I'll
Yeah.
check the gain if I need to. Is that a
Yeah.
little bit better? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can see you. I can hear you. So it's all good now. All right. So let's go back to coding and trading. Did you start coding immediately, or did you do manual trading first and then got into coding?
I did manual trading first, absolutely. Someone said the audio is still there, but change it up. I just did. They're still saying it's not connected, but I do have it on
Hey?
Yeah.
It might be a little bit. I mean, they're saying the audio issue is still on. So, chat, can you hear Coach Robert? Because on my end, he's not choppy and he's coming through fine. So I don't.
Unlistenable, it says.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay.
Let me ask Bruno, because Bruno can give me a little bit more feedback than, oh, unlistenable. It's like, what do you mean unlistenable? Too loud? Like, what? What does that
Okay, so
actually mean?
here's what I'll do. I'm gonna turn my gain up and down. So I'll count to 5 as I'm turning the gain up, and then I'll count backwards to turn it down, just so we can hear the difference. So
Okay.
I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, okay, so when you put the gain down, that actually does stop clipping. And so keep the gain down. I can get you up in the in my OBS over here. So keep talking.
Okay, gain is down. Yep, gain is down. We're just talking and just do a mic check, and this is how we go. Sounds like there's a short. Nope, there's nothing else. Like the other microphones are off.
No. So, I mean, it's a bit boomy, obviously, because you're in a room, but, you know, that's not really any,
All right, I'll turn the gain down a little bit more.
yeah.
Bring this down. Here, we'll try
Yeah, I
that.
mean, Bruno is saying that's okay, so I don't, you know.
Okay.
All right, so we're
right,
getting
so
there.
Yep. It's like the mic did. No, it's plugged in. It's all clear on this side too, so they can hear, but it's low. I'm not gonna mess with my gain. You can do it on your side, Deeyana.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I think we should be
All right.
okay. He goes, so Bruno says he sounds far from the microphone, but I can understand. Yeah, that's always the case. I mean, it's just where you place your microphones and stuff.
It is right here.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's carry on. So, like I said, you got into trying to code some to automate your strategies, right? Was that something you started with, or was there a period where you just did manual trading and then decided to use your technical expertise and get it into an algorithm of some sort?
That's pretty much it. I was trading, trying to trade the 1 minute candle on small low cap stocks and trying to catch a run with a whole bunch of contract. I say contract, but they were shares at the time. You would throw 10,000 shares at a $3 stock at the U.S. Open for the first minute, try to make money. And I lost for 7 months solid. And and after this gentleman reached out to me in the room and said, hey, I can show you a couple things. And he showed me futures to begin with, and we started doing just an opening range breakout, which actually is the first 5 minutes. I know we use 1 minute on TopstepTV. It's the first 5 minutes to let that first mess go away. And with futures, there's a different liquidity, and you don't have to worry about fills. You can go longs or shorts. It was cheaper, 23 hours a day. So we traded the Asian Open, and the London Open, and then the U.S. Open. And we started talking one day, and we were using TradingView at the time. And we got to talking about my background in IT stuff. And then he said, yeah, let's go through. And TradingView is something called PineScript, which is a version of Python. And I knew a little bit of that from the back days. So I started coding, and next thing you know, I'm making a bunch of indicators. And I think I have 60 or something right now that are out there. And just went one thing after another, and then all of a sudden, like 2 years in, people started noticing, other traders started seeing, hey, this is cool, this is really good, can you automate this? So then I was like, well, TradingView didn't have automation on it, so I went to NinjaTrader, which does have automation, and started learning that, which is called NinjaScript, which is a version of C#. So I had to learn a little bit different that way. Just started coding, minor automation stuff, cross this, break over that, if the price reaches this level, go long, put brackets on. So I started doing that automation. Then we start falling into, I'm just giving you a time frame here about the beginning of COVID. And that's when the automation really took hold, because I was just flipping contract from one candle to another. Hey, it's a 1 minute candle that closed green. If the candle closes green, short it, take back half the candle, put my stop above it. And you'd literally, I say, work for 20 minutes and make your pay and enjoy your day. So I did that for a while and just trying to change it all up. And that's where the coding side comes in. And then I really didn't like the way NinjaTrader was performing. And at this time, I was just getting involved with Topstep, and they had Quant Tower. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I can use Quant Tower, and you can do the same thing. And Quant Tower is native C#. So you have to use Visual Studio or some other thing to code in that, which is so much cleaner. So to give you an example, my first indicator, the one that I took from TradingView, was about 400 and something lines of code. And when I went to NinjaTrader, it was almost 4,000 lines of code. And then when I went to Quant Tower, it's about 600 lines of code. So it gets rid of some of the bloat because you're using the native portion of it.
Yeah, so what happened with Ninja, like I shied away from coding anything for Ninja for a long time because they were stuck on the old version of C# for years. And we all kept calling in going, hey, when are we gonna move, forward into the 21st century and get off this I think they were still stuck on C#5 or something, which is like, like literally like a decade ago or something. And they just did not care for a long time until such time that they were like, okay, we're doing this whole update, but they still went to C#8, I think. And I think we're well over that. So they're still on the old version, but it became possible to trade, to code a little bit better, and to have some more elegant solutions like optimizations. Like we do a lot of like speed optimizations and memory optimizations so that it doesn't overload the computer. So yeah, and once that came in, we were like, okay, maybe we can reconsider Ninja. But for a very, very long time, I was really against going to create anything for Ninja because I was like, no. But obviously they've come along with the times and they're pretty cool. And yeah, you know, I would still like for them to use a more recent version, because what I had is one of my developers, he decided to get all excited that we're making new indicators. So he went and created one of our indicators or started to write it in the latest version of C#. So he did that for 3 months, and then he came to present his work to us, and we're like, yeah, not to burst your bubble, but yeah, they're still not on this version. And so we had to throw away like 3 months of work, which was a little bit worrying. But yeah, since then we are having like meetings a lot more to understand exactly where everybody is. So yeah, my experience with coding was that I tried to create something back in 2015 that would replace me, right? And I have very different ways of seeing things. So, I have, one setup for one type of a day, another setup for another type of a day. So I thought that I could make this like master algorithm that's going to replace Dee. And unfortunately, it didn't work that way. I had so many filters in there. And when you do that, you have too many filters and it almost never trades. Whereas I do 3 to 5, 6, 7 trades a day sometimes. So I was like, why is that not working? And it totally humbled me with the way you have to approach algorithms. So now I know that you have to code it around a single idea and not to overfit, and also not to have a million conditions in there. So when you're coding, how many conditions do you normally stick to? I'm really interested to know this.
Yeah, no more than 3, and they're generally just, I really don't do anything but time. We can get into that concept as well, but it's because we get paid, we win or we lose based on price, not necessarily time. So it really just looks at market flow and how things are happening. In other words, I'm not going to say, well, this candle closes, do this, because in my opinion, when the candle closes, it's basically just a timer went off. So, hey, this candle closed and it pushed up 50 more points. Like, well, yeah, of course it did, because of this happened. So it's very, very small amount as well. And Deeyana, we actually did this. You've heard this like 3-bar reversal thing. Well, like a year and a half ago, I had this. It's about almost a 2-hour webinar. We started building NinjaTrader bot from scratch on the 3-bar reversal, and it's recorded. I'll pull the link out and give it to your viewers.
Yeah, please.
But you don't need any coding. You just go through the strategy build and say, if this does that, then this does that. The bar is an up bar that closes. Then the wick is more than the candle in the body. It reverses and blah, blah, blah. You just do that. And so it's not that difficult, but that's only a single condition. Point being is when we started adding during the process, we ran it for simulated for a week. And this is a replay, not back test stuff. Just like, hey, we're going to start here and we're going to forward test through this week. And we ended up, it was something like $3,000 we ended up with that week. And they said, well, only do longs over this moving average. We did that. It got worse. Only do a short under VWAP. It got worse. Only do a trade. And so everything we added, and you can see this, it's all recorded. It's like every time we added something else, it's just like, no, only take the trade if it does this, the candle looks like this. Okay. So every time we made an adjustment.
But we can we take that into the manual trading world as well? Because let's talk about 100%. People not understanding that every time you change something in your own trading, you're changing a parameter, right? Because that's how I look at everything. If I'm looking at somebody's trading and they're like, one time they're using a 3 lot, another time they're using, 5 lot, then they get scared, then they use a 1 lot. It's like, that's a huge parameter change. And they're like, oh, I'm not being consistent. And I'm like, well, if your stops are still the same and everything else is still the same, but you keep changing size, that's a parameter that you keep that you're not consistent with. So I'm not surprised that you don't have good results out of that because you're just changing it willy-nilly. Same thing with, changing your targets. Some people sometimes aim for the home run trade. I'm going to get 10R on this trade. And then another time they're like, oops, I'm going to just take 0.5. But no rhyme or reason to it. And then they come to me and they're like, oh, I'm not consistent. And I'm like, well, you're changing this, you're changing that, and if you take everything that you're changing as a single variable, as if you were a computer code, what you will find is a whole bunch of mess, right? So I always say to people to consider every time you're going to change something, however minute, whether you want to increase your stop loss or reduce your stop loss, that's a parameter that you're changing. And you've seen what happens to your code, right? Every time you added something, it got worse. It's like,
yeah, and sometimes it's better, but you have to run it for a while. And this is this tight line between how long do we do this, because the market's changing also, right? So what worked at one point, and that's kind of the example I use, Deeyana, all the time, is during that time of COVID, I was doing okay at the beginning, and then COVID, it was around March, right at the end of March. All of a sudden, I'm losing. I'm like, what the hell happened? Because the market was different. So I had to make an adjustment, and then it worked good for March, April, May, and towards into the summer. But then COVID started to lighten up a little bit, or we started calming down, and it didn't work anymore. So I had to change it again. So here's the point I want to make on this. If you ask me at the end of 2020, so December 31st, and you say, hey, give me a back test for the last year. Well, if I chose the setup of the first part of the year, we did great for the first third and then horrible the last two. But if I chose the setup for the COVID middle, it was bad at the beginning, good in the middle, and bad at the end. And then if I chose the end months, it was good the first half, but bad the first 2/3 and then good the last third. So this is why I don't look at back tests. I'll have traders come in to me and just be like, hey, let me see the results of this back test for the last 5 years. I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm doing that. It's a different market. It doesn't work that way. It's a different market. I just looked at when I first started the group, I made this little calculator thing and the VIP stuff, and 2 weeks in, the market was shifting a little bit. I'm like, wow, I have to change this a little bit, not to change the strategy up, but just to change a little bit of parameter.
Yeah, parameter. Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, like I said, I normally use 35 ticks on DAX for stop loss. And when the craziness began, obviously I would plop in a trade. And at this point, I do know how things are supposed to look like. And I've been through COVID. I've been through austerity measures. I've been through the credit crunch because I was already trading that year. So, I've been through a few sort of black swan type events and different changes in volatility. I've also been through the Trump administration. Last time we had the same crap going on. And, it wasn't a huge surprise to me. But as soon as I put in my trade and my 35 tick stop was like taken out like that, I was like, let me have a look at what the volatility is doing. And then I have these cutoff points where, in my plan, I can effectively figure out what sort of a stop size I'm going to be using based on the ranges that were done previously, historically, when the VIX was around that level as well. And obviously, I pulled up my notes and I was like, okay, 110 for a stop. That means a small size. So, I can't continue to trade like 4 or 5 lots like I used to. I have to go down to a small size because the stop is so massive. But it was fine. Like, the returns didn't change much. They were just like, if anything, they were quicker targets because we had, days where DAX went like 500-600 ticks. And I was only looking to grab between 220 up to sort of 340. That was like my final target, 3R. And it was still doing the same thing, but on a small size. Again, it's the same risk per trade. It's the same everything, just adjusted for the volatility. And most people don't do that. And then they don't even know how to approach it because they've never seen it before. But when we're talking back tests and stuff, I think that anything over 6 months, I mean, even 3 months, it's too much. It's just like, it doesn't tell you anything. It's a different market. You might catch a summertime period when things are a bit quiet. You might catch a volatile period when we had, the elections kicking off, everybody was doing presidential campaigns and stuff. That's when the craziness started creeping into the markets. But do you use an out of sample time of like when you have a back test, but then you use out of sample, you basically run it for 2 weeks in the live market to see how it performs. Do you do that at all?
Yeah, there's actually, yes, there, and that's where you kind of make the adjustments. And I think everybody's probably heard the what's the name for it? You know, you can't step in the same river twice. That
Yeah.
was the cliche or whatever. You can't step because it's a moving river. Right? You can't step in the same. I always say you can't step in the same river once because as you're stepping in, it's changing. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how it works. So yeah, what I do is that you can check something. Say I have this idea, just something, whatever. When I don't know, the ADX is at this level, go long. Whatever idea you have, and then you track it. Go, I'm going to run it back for a week, 2 weeks, 3 months, and then you do a replay of it. Like, okay, now let me pull the data, do a market replay, and so it would be a forward test, so to speak. The market comes in tick by tick, and it plays as if the market were running. And it's still not going to be accurate because in the test environment, you're going to get filled all the time. There's not much slippage.
Yeah,
And
there's
like
no
that. You can
slippage. It's
program it in.
perfect.
It's not the
Yeah.
exactly. And I did this test, Deeyana. What I did is this was back on. This is several years ago. I had Ninja Trader, and I had the same automated strategy, very very simple, basic strat. And I had it set up in a quad window. And on one window, I had my Ninja Trader account brokerage. This is pre-Topstep. I had a prop firm account on one. I had the internal simulation account, and then I had my own personal account at the time. So I ran the exact same strategy for a day, just sort of micro, and I had 4 different P&Ls at the end of the day. And of course,
Lovely.
my live account was the worst one, right?
Yes,
So then
always.
get this.
Yeah.
I went back at the end of the day. I downloaded the data and I ran market replay on that day, and it was yet a 5th different P&L. This is one day. So, I noticed that, hey, the market came down, the sim filled perfectly at this price level. I didn't get a fill on my live account. So that trade is gone. And then sometimes, wow, I didn't get a fill that was a winner. I got filled and didn't the other side. And of course I got filled, which was a loser. It's just how it goes. And so you got to take it with a grain of salt, so to speak. But you don't want to change it up all the time.
Yeah, so whenever I hear people talking about, oh, there's this person selling an algorithm, they're very, very profitable. And I'm like, yeah, that's not how it works, because you have hedge funds that employ teams and hordes of people that are there to do the job of a quant strategist. What does that mean? It means that they have a set of algorithms that they've licensed maybe from other people, and they have certain algorithms that they're going to run for a certain time of the year. And they have other algorithms that are maybe more suitable for, let's say, the winter time, or, it's just like seasonal trends that we see over and over, especially in my markets. But what the normal, like sort of more ordinary people don't realize is that, if you're not from the tech world, if you have never dealt with backtests, there is no perfect code. Like there's always something that you're going to have to do to meddle as a human. So I laugh when people say, oh, if I could only code, I could get rid of my emotions. It's like, that is not going to work, because you're still going to meddle. As a human, you see something, you see the algorithm doing something, and you're like, I don't think it should be going into this trade. And then you're going to switch it off, or you're going to mess with a stop, or you're going to mess with a target. You're not just going to let it run and trust it, because the moment that algorithm gets itself into a drawdown, you're going to start doing things to it. So this is why quant strategists are there for in a professional setting, and they're paid a lot of money to do this, to decide which algorithm will be switched on or off, right?
Exactly. And, that's why I said when people were trying to get me to code things or asking, like, I'm not going to beat the market. It's just, I'm one person. I mean, I didn't go to college. I just learned all this stuff on my own. And you're up against Wall Street and the big hedge funds and the financial institutions with quants that are there. They have multiple PhDs in computer science and analytics and statistics and economics. Who am I to think I'm going to take that over? So I just look at it and say, hey, if you look at the market right here, right now, I go, good. I have, five or six down candles in a row. Okay, do I want to look at that peak and say I'm going to go short by 1/3 of that? Cool. If I make it, I make it. Or do I want to look at that as a bounce and say, hey, I just went down by X amount of candles. Typically, percentage-wise or probability-wise, once I move that far in one direction, I'll typically get a retrace the other way of about 25% of that move. Cool. So that's what you'll do. And if I did that right now and put a long on because I just came down so far and I go long, you have your stop, and sometimes you get stopped out, and sometimes you make your profit. You make your profit, and that's really all it is. And I wouldn't go long here because I'm looking out at the bottom. I have a little DI minus, which is picking up speed, which means sellers are coming in. So I wouldn't go long in this case. So there's your second parameter. I have my candles in a row. Am I going to go up or down, long or short on this thing? Oh, wait a second. The sellers are coming in strong. Let me continue and just put a stop at a reasonable location above that, and then let it go. And that's all it is. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And
Yeah,
hopefully
exactly.
if you're doing a 1-to-1, hopefully you're 51% and you're good to go at that point.
With 1-to-1, last time I checked, for long-term profitability, you really need to be over 56%. Otherwise, it's like scratch. It's such a tiny edge that it's like you're not actually making much. Yeah. So 56% is sort of a cutoff point. I'm on the other side of that. So, I usually have a lower accuracy, but a much higher risk reward than your normal average trader. I usually float between sort of 40 to 52%. That would be like best case scenario. And I did have moments during COVID where my accuracy actually went up to 70%, but I was being a lot more scalpy because the moves were like so quick. So I was like in and out of a trade literally like in minutes, which is unusual for me. But that's how the market was. You have to adapt. Just checking in on the markets here. I am stalking a copper trade. One of my conditions to even enter a trade would be an initial balanced extension. We still don't have that. So it's it's a bit of a shakeout from the call level at 513. We have overnight VWAP sitting right under that. Again, if I was going to break my rules, I would be like, let me front run this trade. So maybe we can front run a trade idea of a short that we are going to have a bit of a pullback from yesterday's up move. Maybe towards this GX1 level. So maybe I can run 1 micro. I'm running a new combine just to effectively show some consistency that you don't have to trade with massive sides. I just finished one the other day, and I showed some of my results there. So let me just move this over here. Diligent with trade locations, not oversizing, not doing anything crazy, and, had basically every day up. So, did nothing crazy. It was literally just like the way I normally trade. So the whole point of the London session is more of a class to me because we don't really get crazy movements. They all always happen much, much later in the day, especially on these products. Like I said, if we had Eurex, that might be different. But yeah, I have to be very careful with the types of positions I'm taking. But yeah, let's try a little trade short here. 35 ticks. So I'm only in with 1 micro. If it draws down against me, I will have more firepower to effectively go in more. So thereby improving my average and reducing the stop loss somewhat. However, if that happens, I do have a maximum default position size for this particular account as 3 micros, okay? It's a 50K, so we can't be going 3 minis on a copper trades. It's like, $12.50. It's very expensive. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give myself time for this to extend the initial balance. But if we manage to get a bit of a pullback into the initial balance towards VWAP, I can then rearrange my entry to be better, and maybe even we can move the stop up, because basically when you have a better average, up to your maximum default position size, you can still run the same stop loss size, but with a better average, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I like to do things. If I'm starting out from the top of the range, like let's say that I saw this supply up here and I was kind of stalking it in the morning, you could have maybe entered with a tiny stop, and then as it goes your way, you can start adding. However, be mindful if you're doing that, you do have to have a cutoff point where your stop versus your average entry still has to be reasonably consistent, okay? So, I'm aiming for a 35 tick stop. So however that works out, within my maximum default position size, that's how we're going to play it. I see too many people just willy-nilly entering positions, sizing up 100%, 200%. They don't have a maximum default position size. They're just kind of going, oh, I'm going in with 3. And then they scale up to 6. And I'm like, what are you doing? And it's like day 1 of a 50K combine. And they're like, oh, I blew it. Yeah, not surprised. So
these conditions, you gotta stay small. These conditions, when you're first starting out, that's the toughest thing. So talk to me about your VIP team. What do you find challenging? Because we're both VIP coaches. I find it super challenging that I don't have enough control over them. Some of them are following rules and they're doing well, but others, they're just still doing stuff. How do you feel about that? How is it going with your crowd? Well, as a coach, I mean, it's a free thing for everyone. If I'm training somebody, be it music or nutrition or bodybuilding or karate, and they're paying me for my time, you have like more control of what it is. Hey, listen, all right, what are we going to do? I need you to do these 3 things. And then you meet again and say, how did this go? Well, I didn't do those. Like, well, I'm not working with you anymore. We can't do that, where this is all a free thing, because that's a personal thing, right? It's like, hey, I'm not going to, if you want success in bodybuilding, for example, and you do nutrition, and then you take the calipers, you do body fat measurements, like, what the hell happened? Well, I did this and did that, did this. Like, well, I'm not going to go out there and have you come out onto a stage and be like, who the hell is your trainer? And then have my name out there, right? So I know it sounds, it's not big-headedness, but it's like, hey, if you're coming to me for a reason, and we're both spending our time, but I can only work with so many people, and this person over here is really trying hard, and you're not. So I want to work with them because I'm a success person. Flip that into what we're doing now. It's a free thing, right? It's just a service we're providing. So we really can't say too much with that. All we can do is make our suggestions, and hopefully some will take it. And we're not always right. There's 50 traders in each group, which is 50 different personalities, 50 different ways to trade. And we have to approach it a little different, because one person you could say something to as a type of suggestion, and they're like, why are you yelling at me? And the next person's kind of like, no, just give it to me straight. So it's really hard to manage sometimes, but we just have to adapt.
Robert, I think that one problem is that we're Gen X, and a lot of the people in the VIP are much younger, and they're kind of used to a gentle approach. I've noticed that when I'm dealing with some of the people from my own generation, I can be more harsh, and they don't take it the wrong way. But if I try to do that with somebody who's like, for example, 27, they're like, oh, you're being really, I don't know, this is really affecting me. And I was like, you want to be a trader and this is affecting you? I was like, boy, have you got a journey ahead of you, man. So, trading requires extreme emotional resilience. I haven't had anybody who was like, oh, Dee, you're shouting at me or something. I did kind of do a few things where I said, can you please stop doing this? Like, you've been doing this for like 4 weeks now, and you're hurting the entire team, frankly. Everybody else is following rules. You're not. Can you sort yourself out, please? And I actually got a pretty positive response. They were like, no, you're absolutely right. This is something I've been struggling with. I'm actually glad that you told me about it. And yes, I'm trying. I'm really trying. And I will take on your suggestions and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, so that went better than I expected. So generally, they're pretty responsive, but I still have people who have never been in the Discord group. I don't even know who they are. Like, I see their names and stuff, but I'm like, I've never seen you before. And they're doing this thing, like, new reset, minus 3K. New reset, minus 3K. Then nothing for like 2-3 weeks. Then they reset again for the new. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Not too much you can do, and it's not. Sometimes it's not even being harsh, though. It's sometimes the wording. And typing is tough too, because I'm this way. I mean, I'm an Irishman. I'm male. I have a type A personality. It's just the way it comes across. And I have to be really careful, because you can just say one thing like, "What do you mean?" Right? Just 4 words. What do you mean? But if you say like, "What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean?"
Yeah.
Those are 4 different meanings in the same 4 words.
Exactly.
So coming across
inflection matters.
Yes. Exactly. So when you have the meetings, and it's a little better that way. They can actually get a little more of your personality. Say, oh, and then just coming from the strong-headed side of things. It's just how I am, and I have to be really careful with it, because I know everybody learns. Some are visual learners. Some are they have to watch. Some have to read. Some have to talk, and that's totally fine. Just being adaptable. But the thing about this is to put that stuff aside, Deeyana, is like, if you're here for a reason, and we say, how about taking a look at this market instead? Just a
Yeah,
suggestion.
I do
Go to a
that.
practice
Yeah.
account, take a look at it, and it never happens. Like, why don't I want to do that? Well, why are you here? At least try something different. If what you're doing isn't working, let's at least try something different and see if it works for you. And fortunately, we've had some traders do that, and even literally like a candle type. One person's a trend trade. I'm like, do nothing else, but for the next 2 days, switch to Heiken Ashi candles and see if it helps you hold your trend longer. And they're killing it. They're doing that one little switch.
Yeah,
But then some,
Haikinashi,
it's like, it
yes.
doesn't work for me. Yeah.
I actually
It's your
use
trend.
it sometimes on NQ on 100 tick charts. So when we're doing the reversal challenge, I usually have another screen open, and I usually put the Haikinashi on the 100 ticks on NQ, and it helps to smooth out stuff so I can see how it changes over my little ribbons and stuff. By the way, just an update on this trade. I did scale in. Now, somebody asked me what is my scaling in, averaging in strategy. So I use the MAE point to scale in, and I also use the MAE plus minus a few ticks to run my partial stop outs if I'm in with full size immediately. So there's several ways that I do it. One of the primary ways is to wait so I have one idea for a trade, but I usually experience some drawdown upon an entry. That's like a normal thing for me. So I decided to make that into my strength. And I use the MAE point of 18 ticks, ballpark, like every product will be slightly different because I trade multiple things. But for copper, for vast majority of things, it's around about 18 ticks for me. So that's where my first scale-in point is. If it then goes back to my entry and I get a signal, candlestick signal, and maybe a break of the initial balance, that would be my final scale-in. Sometimes I will adjust my stop loss to account for that scale-in if it's with the direction, but not in a slight drawdown, because obviously you get a slightly worse average. And then that will be it. Then I just sit and wait, sometimes for 2-3 hours. It really depends how quickly the market moves. But for now, we're still kind of sitting in the initial balance. Like if I wasn't on the stream, I would actually be waiting until it pops initial balance. But obviously, people want to see us clicking buttons. So here we are. That is one idea. That we basically go into a correction towards this GEX1 level, away from the gamma wall at 513, and then ultimately towards the ADR low, which is just under, so 509.25. But we actually have a lot of room to do a proper gap fill down to the London value high, which is 505.40, so very far away. If you're going to be trading this during COMEX, the COMEX value is much higher, and we actually, I think we're kind of having a bit of a reaction from there. It's 511.66. So it's still dangerous because we're still inside initial balance. This could rotate on me all the way, back up to this supply area where we came from. But I'm using the gamma wall as a sort of an orientation point. So even if I get hit, I'm still not in full size. I'm still only in with 2 micros. So therefore, I will have more swings at the bat if the setup turns up a little bit later and it looks better, right? Just wanted to give a little update there. So Coach Roberts,
Sure.
Do you trade the London session at all ever? Are you like sometimes awake and going, oh, let me see what NQ is doing?
Yeah, it is very sporadic, and to be honest, it's really tough for trading now because I have my setup here in front of me and my personal in the back, and I'm in front of here. I can show you my screen's up there, but I was much more actively trading myself for several years, 4.5 years before Topstep, and since then it's slowed down. We're just doing so much work and so much behind the scenes. I'll pull this over. I'll show you all what it looks like. Here's my. Yeah, I should be right there. I think it pulled up. Yep, there we go. This January 2nd, 2018. That was my office. You can see a guitar there and an amplifier there.
Yeah.
And I have this little tiny laptop. Okay, so we go a year later, and what happens a year later? We have how I spend my mornings. We have another screen over there. We have more screens equals
it's growing.
Right? So this is the same laptop with coffee cups. And now I will show you my setup as of today in my new house here. This is my setup as it stands right now. I am actually sitting in this chair, this blue chair facing this large monitor. This is the camera. Right. This was just taken a few days
Jesus,
ago
man.
when I
How
got
many
everything.
screens? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
7.
7. Wow.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
because this is the whole setup when you have to watch the charts and then all the stuff going on inside the laptop. This would be Discord and then our schedule, all this stuff. This is all TopstepTV, but then I can spin around and slide my chair over, and this is my personal setup on this side, where I have other scripts running on the laptop, and I have my PC down on the floor here, and it's just
Yeah, I mean,
it's really fun.
To be honest, I have four. I have four sort of 23 inch. Is it 23? Yeah. So four of the screens. I find it a bit tight with all the stuff that we're working, because obviously if I'm running this show on one screen, I usually have YouTube. Then I would really need another one for the video, which I kind of flip between YouTube and the video. Then I have Discord. Then I have OBS. Then I have one screen for this. Then I have another screen for charting. Then another screen for Ninja. And I'm like, I need another screen.
That's how it goes. I know. Yeah. So for trading wise, I do get in when I can. It's literally impossible for me to do any type of manual trading while it's during the TV, because I'm in the production. So we start about an hour and a half before the actual show starts.
Yeah.
And, about a month ago, we started the show about an hour earlier.
Earlier, I saw that. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and then afterwards you have meetings.
I'm struggling with this.
Really?
Yeah, because obviously right now we have the disparity between USA changing clocks, but UK doesn't change clocks until the 30th of March. So obviously I have to be up like at 7 o'clock in order to, have a shower, get some coffee, wake up, and then 8:30 I start. But normally I usually start at 9:30 for a couple of reasons. Like the first reason would be that I wait for the initial balance extension. So a lot of the times now in the last couple of weeks, I'm just sitting here waiting, doing a subpart trading setup, because obviously, people want to see you trade. And I'm like, well, I've got to do a trade. So there's a couple of them quite a few of them that I've done that I shouldn't have been in on, because we never popped the initial balance. So, it is what it is. You're working on a show, production, and it's a trading show. So people obviously want to see you trade. But a lot of the times, if I don't really see anything obvious, I will turn this into a class. And we have a lot of questions. People keep wanting to know about strategies, then I ask them questions. So it kind of turns almost into a therapy session of us kind of talking through problems, how to create plans, how to approach specific XFAs and stuff. And it's a good mix of education versus trading. But obviously with me having a 50% ballpark accuracy, every so often we get people going, oh, you're losing a trade. And I'm like, yeah, I will lose every second trade. Like, you won't see me lose trades. But once I'm in on my big ones, that's like 3R, 4R, 5R on a lot of the times, especially on copper. Copper is so directional. Like, once it pops the initial balance in London, that's usually the direction of the day. So whoever is new, whoever is struggling with NQ, struggling with equities, I would advise them that they look at copper. Because even with some pullbacks, if you're using some of my levels, these options, gamma walls and the value area edges, you're going to find an awesome trade location that will be able to withstand a swing of several hours on copper. Not on NQ, unfortunately. If I try and do the same on NQ, it's not the same product, and it wags up and down. Like Coach Hoop calls it NASDAQ doing zoomies. And when I heard that, it's like, zoomies. Total craziness. And it's such a good descriptor of what NQ does. Now, Robert, you have an entirely different way of trading to me. It's almost like a complete 180. I like to hold trades for hours. I use slightly wider stops and larger risk reward over a number of hours. You like to use smaller stops. You aim for almost negative risk reward, but a very, very high accuracy, which accounts for the negative risk reward. So it just shows us that, there's like a million ways to peel an onion, as Hogue likes to say. Let's leave cats out of it. But talk to me how you came to the conclusion that would be your thing. That,
Sure.
Negative expectancy, negative risk reward, but positive expectancy via high accuracy.
Yep, that's exactly right. And they do go hand in hand. So if you're talking risk reward, you have to talk win rate and stuff also. And if you're just talking win rate, you have to talk risk reward, because you take somebody, like myself, my win rate is, generally 80-85%. But if I have a win rate of 70, I'm losing. It just has to because the risk reward is off. And it is an inverted risk reward. I just don't use a static one because here's a word, and I don't mean to ruffle feathers or anything, right? But it's rustle feathers. But I just don't want to use a static risk reward in a dynamically moving market. It's kind of the easiest way to say it. So what I do is I just put a trade on and give it a reasonable location. Doesn't mean you're going to get stopped out. You have to let it go all the way to your stop, nor all the way to your target, because that's not what I do. I'm looking for those little pieces. I would rather take, if I'm looking for 100 points, an arbitrary number. So if I'm looking for 100 points, I just don't like personally looking for 100 points. I will look for 10-point trades every day of the week and twice on Sunday. It's just a mindset that I like to get. I want to get into a trade. It doesn't necessarily have to be fast, because sometimes I'll have a trade on and it won't hit for 2.5, 3 hours. It's just not there yet. And then once it hits, it might be in 3, 4, 5 minutes, 30 seconds. But if I'm going to trade for 5 or 6 minutes, that's a long time for me, only because you're looking for those pieces out of NQ. Yeah. So I always say it's NQ, it's its own animal. And if you learn your instrument, you can do pretty well with it. Where NQ, if you break a high of day or a previous high for NQ, you're generally going to go about 10 points beyond it, even if it's just an up and drop back down again. So I'm going to take between 2 and 8 points. That's just how I look at the market. Does it work all the time? Of course not, but it works 80% of the time. Yeah, that's all I need, right? And that's you can look at any of these breaks on my chart. Look at any of these breaks. If I grab on the left-hand side, if you're going to take next break, the next break, okay, and this is an easy one to look at. So I would have a trade waiting way up the top like this, and now we have it down. The market comes down and then pushes back up again. Well, I have a pivot. I'm just going to take a short below it, right? And here's another pivot. It comes down, pushes up. I'll just take a short right below it. Down and back up, I'll have a short. This is a losing trade. See, I was short below it. It looks like I would be entering, right around this area, and 19,930. But that's a stop out. This one here, you enter by a couple of ticks, you get stopped out. So what? I have an up and down. I'm going to take a break at the top of it. I have an up and down. I'm going to take a break at the top, and it looks like that may or may not have it's a course across the day. But this is what I look at. This is really all it is. Down and up, there's a pivot, there's a short right here, there's a pending long right here. So that's just my style of doing it. There's a little calculation, a little formula. But if the market is, at the bottom, I'll bring this up a little bit so you can see it. It's just a directional index. Red are the sellers coming in, green are the buyers coming in, and the yellow line is ADX.
We actually had a question. A question about the DMI. Let me just go back to Bruno here for a second.
Sure.
So I actually have it blue and pink on my indicator. So it's the same. Yeah. So because we've worked together on Back to the Futures a few times, and I know that you use it, so I wanted to have it there as well. And it's a pretty decent indicator. I mean, obviously I look at other things. We both look at volume profiles, so it's not like you're looking at some odd things. But I noticed you were using the DMI, and just visually, it's a really good indicator just to see what's going on, especially on low time frames. So, we actually had a question from Ben Davison. Is that blue and pink indicator ADX DMI customized? And that's actually a better question for you, Robert, because obviously I just drag out the indicator. I don't know how much you customized it or not. So, so I'm going to ask you, is the DMI indicator customized in Topstep?
It is. I'll pull up. It is actually. So I'm going to pull it up for you. It's in Topstep. You click on indicators, you type in DMI. It's a directional movement index. So what it does is the green is just showing us when the buyers are coming in, or positive. DI is, I'll go to the style of it. See, DI plus and DI minus, a directional movement going up or down. So it just shows the strength of the number of coming in. So you can look at this almost like a delta, right? We have more buyers coming in and the sellers are dropping off. The yellow line is ADX. It's the average directional index. That's not the direction, it's a strength. So notice we have the green, which are buyers, and we have ADX going up, which means the greens are getting stronger. Buyers getting stronger, it's pushing up. But then once they started falling off, we can see these sellers come in, they took over the buyers with strength. Well, that's an opportunity to quote unquote short. If we had a little bit of a pullback here and I had another, let's say it comes down and up and I have a entry potential here, I'm not going to take that as a long because the sellers are really in control. They are in control with gusto because the ADX is sky high. So I would not be taking that particular trade. So that would be an example of a secondary option. Say, hey, when the market pulled down, came back up and made a couple pivots, I'm going to target this area. Confirmation? Sellers are in control right now. I'm not going to take that trade. And that would be the single decision I would make on that. So there's your settings. I'm using a DI length of 10. It's just looking back a period of 10. And anytime I'm using DI and ADX together, I double them. So if I was using a length of 20, my ADX smoothing would be 40. I don't want it to be so choppy. And then it's just a different color change for the positive directional index up or down, and the ADX I have yellow. So those are the settings. It is by default. And someone asked if in Quant Tower. Yes, it is in Quant Tower. I actually like the Quant Tower one a little bit better. It doesn't have a combo on it, but I can't custom code in Topstep X yet. But hopefully we have the opportunity. Quant Tower custom coded one. Yes, exactly.
Just gonna clear my throat for a second, so I'm gonna disappear for a minute.
Yeah, no problem. We're both talkers. We can get through this. Now you're muted. There you go. Okay, sure. All right, so that's how it looks. If someone else wants me to pull up another, someone said copper, GK of copper they were looking at. So I'll let me type in copper, which is HG. And this is on 1,000 tick chart. I'm not sure how that looks on copper. Let's go through them. There's a 100 tick chart on copper. It actually, in my opinion, looks a little better because we have the entire day in copper.
All right, I'm back. Yes, we trade copper here. We trade copper. Just a little update on my copper trade since we are all in copper. Let me change to my screen. We are breaking through the initial balance. So for now, I am in with 2. I'm going to wait and see how we close, whether we close the 30-minute chart outside of it or not before I add the final one. And in that case, I'm going to have to adjust my stop loss to still be 35 ticks in relation to the new average. We'll see where that is. For now, it's going well, but we are reaching a GEX 1 level, which can be a reversal point. So I'm going to keep watching the initial balance, and let's see what happens in 5 minutes. All right, back to you, Robert.
Yeah, no problem. Answering a question here. Someone asked about RSI and MACD. So in a short-term trader, they're not that great because it does take a while for them to turn on and run with it. But if you a lot of traders will say, hey, I'm going to do when MACDs cross one way and cross the other way. If you use them, I don't think you use them for both, getting in and out. So if you're getting into a trade, you may have to just determine what your targets and everything are rather than just wait for them to flip the other direction because there's a long delay on there. Same thing with the ADX. It's a 10-period look back, and since I'm using tick charts, it's going to look at the last 10 candles, last 10 tick candles. But it's still, I hate to use the term lagging, but it has a look back associated with it. So it's not going to react as quickly. You're better off using those things to use as a secondary confirmation, not to be like the end all be all, but a secondary confirmation to say, okay, yeah, it looks like it is going this particular direction. And then adjusting it based on price action at that point, rather than just depending on the indicators. I don't mind indicators as long as you're just not relying on them exactly everything. Hey, this made this adjustment or this setting or this stamp, so I'm going to go long. So like I just showed, like, hey, hold on a second. I do have an indicator on my chart, the DI plus and minus, and I'm looking at price action. So I'm just using that as kind of like my price action says I should take this trade because my criteria showed up. But if I'm looking at the second thing, no, the buyer or the sellers are coming in strong, I am not going to take that long position. Just as I hate to say confirmation, but just as a secondary look at like, what is really happening? Do I really want to take this trade? And I'm a fan, Deeyana, of modifying things like crazy. We have traders that are using like the moving averages and stuff.
Me too.
I don't, but yeah, I don't. But when I do, I definitely make a change. I mean, this is 2 different ones, and if you traders want to see this, they're WMAs. I just think they have a better reaction to the market. It's a weighted moving average, and then they're calculated. You can probably see the Deeyana. They're calculated on 2 different locations. So I have the close, which happens to be my green one, calculated on a 20 period, and then the other one, the red one, is a 25. So it's a longer wait time, but it's also calculated on the open. So to me, it gives me a clearer direction where if you do get the cross you're looking for, it's not just a single moving average because you may be scared out, in this particular location because the market's come, oh, damn, look it. It's like, hold on a second. but the close hasn't done much. The open is still here, so that means the opens are on the bottom for a longer time, and the closes are getting calculated on a faster time frame, but they're going the same direction. So you don't have, you can, in my opinion, you can hold on to these things a little bit longer than just using a traditional. If I threw a 20 EMA on here, what's it going to look like? So I'm a fan of changing things up to a point of making them work for you and your style. I messed up this Ichimoku cloud, and it's just kind of the same thing. I mean, that's, if you want to look at it, there's your long, and I'm not going to do anything until I actually start to collapse and start getting levelness, and now I'm going to get out of my trade.
Yeah, the problem that I have with those sorts of like Ichimoku Cloud and stuff is that if it's a range-bound market and the trader is not aware of it, you are just, yeah, exactly. It only works. Yes, right. It only works in a particular style. All right, so we are moving pretty nicely. We're coming into the 24-hour ADR low. We may actually overshoot that. So obviously post FOMC, you get these inventory adjustments, they kind of go into crazy movement. So I am watching the ADR low, which is typically an exhaustion area. However, the ASR low, which is basically an RTH average range over the last 10 days, that is much, much lower down. And like I said, we still have this point of the London value high all the way down at 505.35 and some put supports even lower at 503. Because of the nature of the day, if this picks up some momentum and speed, or even if it just keeps grinding lower, although shorts tend to be quicker than longs, especially if it's like some sort of an unwinding, I may not have the opportunity to scale in again for the third contract. Why? Because we're too far away from my entry. At this point, for me, this would be more than 1 hour distance from the original point of entry. And maybe if we go back up to initial balance low at 510.65, I might be able to scale in for the last contract. But for now, I'm just sticking with it and I'm rolling with it. And we'll see how far down we get to. I'm not too obsessed getting to the absolute maximum default size every time. I'm just doing what the market is telling me and giving me an opportunity. Maybe we get it later on in the day. Maybe I'll take this trade, take it off completely, and then try again later on. It's still the same idea. Copper is very directional. Like I said, once it decides on one direction in London, that tends to be the theme of the day, with some pullbacks on quite a few days, but mainly it has like a very single-minded direction. It's just we're going down and we're going down, and that's how it's going to be. A little bit of a squiggle. Then we continue. So keep that in mind whenever you're thinking of trading copper. It's a beautiful product. It's probably one of my favorites in the grand scheme of things. Now, I do quite like RBOB, but it's in rollover still. So until that's completely over, I'm probably going to leave it alone until next week. It's horrible. It's torturous price action. You just look at it, there's spikes everywhere, wicks all over the place. And I'm like, ew, no. All right. Let's see if we have any more. Yeah. Okay. So what?
Drive in there.
Yeah. So
Somebody asked me about the information. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah. So did you have copper on? I can't see because I'm not old.
Oh, I'll put copper on.
Yeah. So tell us what you see in copper, because I want to know. Obviously there's differing styles here, but what usually happens is that you sort of come to the same conclusion because ultimately it's all the same information, right?
Yeah, ultimately it is. So I'm not really sure. I don't look at copper too much, but let's take a quick look at it. Here's a 500 tick chart. I don't think that's going to be good enough for copper. I might have to go down to a 100 tick chart.
Yeah, copper is fairly slow moving. So what you'll be looking at there is the previous day. So just go down to 100 ticks and it's going to show you what's going on today. Because it doesn't have that many ticks. It's not like NQ that it has like a million, ticks per day. It's, it's much slower, much more chill.
Yeah, for sure. Just looking at this visually and seeing how everything is all choppy in the bottom with the DI, it's honestly would not be an instrument I really look to trading myself, because it just doesn't fit like quite style. Like I can't trade gold in either. Yeah. And maybe it's because of the metals. I'll give you some analysis on here in a second, but my thing is, if like Deanna, if I have one, like, meaning if I was a winner in one trade in gold, it has only ever been one trade in gold.
Yeah, I know you hate gold.
I am
You're like me with
horrible at
NQ.
gold.
I am horrible at NQ. I don't like it. I don't want it. It's like, I get it. I totally get the sentiment. To be honest, I myself have a bit of a love-hate relationship with gold as well. Sometimes it behaves itself, but a lot of the times when it goes into that kind of rollover moment as well, it's very choppy, it's very spiky, but with very big wicks. And, I think that's tough to trade for anyone unless you're like a super scalper or something. And I think, Robert, while your trades might look for quick breakouts and stuff, you're still someone who looks for a reasonable chunk to as a profit target. You're not someone who will take like, oh, I'll take 3 ticks, that's enough. You still want quite a few points out of it, rather than just a few ticks, right? Just from what I've seen you do.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to change it up based on the instrument you're trading. So this one here, honestly, I would not be trading breakouts on copper. It just does not appear.
No.
I don't know a lot about it, to be honest, but I would not be trading breakouts. But what it does do, just visually looking at this for the first time in a long time, it just seems that it holds levels. So if you have a high, instead of playing a breakout of the high, wait for it and then use that as a potential bounce. Okay.
Yeah.
This is what I honestly do not know a lot about it,
Spot
so I'm
on.
going to be transparent.
No,
That's how I
listen,
would be using it.
spot on,
Yeah.
Robert, spot on. So basically, copper respects levels. Very rarely will it overshoot a level for like 50 ticks and then come back. It does happen every so often, but it's just not in its character. Usually when you have a level, it will get up to it. Like, for example, gamma walls work incredibly well on copper. So you get up to a level and there's like a bunch of calls or maybe puts down below, and then it just stops. Maybe breaks it by about 5 ticks. And if it's gonna carry on through the level because maybe you have some more call buying or something, it becomes obvious that it holds above it by about 7, 10 ticks, 15 ticks. That's already overshot and holding. But anything below that, it starts to react to it within 3 to 5 ticks, and then it very orderly just turns around and goes back the other way. And it's like, wow. Typically that happens around the London Open. And this is why I do like to use the break of London initial balance as kind of a general direction for the day. It's like one of my kind of secrets. If I look at the 30-minute chart, we do have the Asia high established at 514.75, just under that GEX2 level, so it never even touched it. Sometimes it touches it and kind of goes a little over it before turning around, which would be a setup called Frankfurt Fakeout. That's one of my things. But today, we just kind of shied away from it. London very orderly, opened up, reversed, and now we're extending. So for now, this is like such a smooth, drama-free trade. Yesterday was a bit push and pull. We're going up, and it was all like gradual grind upside, but it was not easy. And I kind of closed my trade out because I was like, I'm not sure this is going to continue, and it's FMC, so I'm just going to close it. That was the wrong decision because it went straight to my target. So, it happens. It happens. You have to live with the decisions. But yeah, it's a very smooth. Yeah. Okay.
I just pulled it.
Talk us through it.
Yep, exactly. On copper, it just had a failure. It just started breaking down a little further. It broke below the previous support areas, and I'm only looking at today on a 100-tick chart. And just to see what it looks like, I don't know what it looks like. So again, it's a practice account, which we said at the beginning. So I went market in with a short. Why did I do that? Because the sellers were taking over, and ADX was curling up, which means they were taking over with more strength. So I took a short. It dropped below, got me into profit. ADX curled up again. Sellers increased. Buyers decreased with my ADX at the bottom. I'll move it up a little so y'all can see it. Which means that buyers weren't able to hold on to it. So I added to my down short selling position, and it just closed this rate. I mean, 113. It was 120 something dollars, and previously I had it. I clicked onto market sell, but I didn't have my, I had it on NQ, so the first trade was like $17 loss. Whatever.
Yeah, immediately.
And I'm just trying to talk through, exactly. Yeah, you just click, wait, what happened? I didn't see it pop up on the chart. So not knowing copper at all, I did nothing. There was no other analysis. Like, what are the prices? What's the economy like? Are there tariffs on it? None of that crap, right? Nothing at all.
Yeah.
It's just that, hey, there are more sellers. They're coming in stronger than buyers. It is below a previous support level. I'm going to short it, get my stop out of the way just in case it dropped a little further, short it a little bit more, target $113.
Nice.
So I'm not saying it's that easy all the time, but just not thinking too much about it and just going off of, well, there's more sellers than buyers. What's the worst that can happen? The sellers will drop off. The ADX will drop, meaning the seller strength is dropping, and buyers are coming in. Close the trade. Get out of it. Take the next one. Very simple.
Yeah, I mean, some people think that my analysis is like a little bit more elaborate and stuff, but it really isn't. I'm kind of using about 3 or 4 references. One of them is the value area, which is just a distribution curve from the previous day's trading. Another one is the options levels. Yes, some supply and demand analysis informations, but generally the final piece of the puzzle is just the value area from the previous day, exhaustion points, and then whatever is going on, like currently. It's like literally like 3 or 4 things are more than enough to push me into a trade. However, it's also enough to keep me out of a trade, because a lot of the times I don't have my setup and I will be just sitting here and talking a lot, which, some people enjoy, because I kind of flip the whole class towards them and sorting the issues they may have. So we talk about combines, blowing them, how not to blow them, what's the appropriate risk model, and all of that good stuff. All right, so Robert, we're going to be winding it down here. So let me see if we missed any questions. I think we are. We're okay. Yes. King Caesar says just having fun here. Yes.
Just having fun here, exactly. Yeah. I do have a link to my drive and some questions. I'd like to share this. It's a Google Drive, it's a shared drive. And I'll throw that link in the chat.
Yeah.
I threw it in earlier.
Yeah.
They can have all the tools that are in there, a lot of information. They can certainly have that. And if it's any of the spreadsheets in there, you just it's a read-only drive because it's shared publicly. Just download it, and then you can edit and do whatever you want. Just like cost calculators and risk management tools and stuff like that. But I just shared it in the drive. You're more than welcome to have that. And Deeyana, little plug here. I made a video about how I make my ribeyes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So if you guys were on my Twitter, obviously I said we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff and ribeye. Coach Robert is on a carnivore diet. I think at this point everybody knows that you like your ribeye. So awesome. Yeah. Is that on the drive as well?
That's there. I just shared it in the chat just now, so y'all can
Lovely. Yes. Oh, I'm definitely going to check that out. I unfortunately can no longer eat beef because of some health issues, but I still make it for my husband and the doggos. So yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Coach Robert's ribeye. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, the drive is better. That's our little thing. I was asked about it. I put it together step by step. It's a few minutes long, but it goes from start to finish.
One.
But the drive's got a lot of good stuff in it. Thanks, Deeyana.
All right, so I'm just going to share some links here for our chat. So we have our Discord where you will find Coach Robert, you will find myself, you will find all of our lovely coaches in there. We've grown to over 100,000 people. So yeah, check us out. You can ask me questions in there if you have any more questions for Robert. And you will see both of us later on. I think you're standing in for JD this week, aren't you? Or next week? Yeah.
And next week.
And next week. Okay. And I'm going to be on for lunchbox trading, I believe I'm on. I have to check my schedule. So you'll see more of us later on today. Until then, thank you for hanging with us. Coach Robert, very pleased to have you on here. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. And, if you're open, we can do this again sometime. Maybe not too often because you need to sleep, obviously. But yeah, it was great having you on. Who needs sleep?
Sleep's overrated. Let's do trading.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just trade 24/7. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you later. I'm Deeyana Angelo, a.k.a. Marcus Zucker D. This is Coach Robert. We will see you later. This has been the London session on TopstepTV. Take care.